Hello everyone, this is Abhishek Mohanty and you are watching Padarth Vigyan. So students, welcome to lecture number 5 of the chapter Vectors. So students, till now we have discussed about how to add two vectors, and there are two laws of vector addition by using which we can add two vectors. The first one is the triangles law of vector addition and the second one is the parallelogram law of vector addition. But if we have more than two vectors to add, then we cannot use these two laws. And to add more than two vectors, we have to use another law of vector addition, which is known as the Polygons law of vector addition. So today in this lecture, I will discuss about this Polygons law of vector addition, and there is no mathematical derivation. This is only the geometrical interpretation, and this will be a very short video. So let's get started. So students, I have written the statement of this Polygons law of vector addition. Just look at it. It states that if a number of vectors to be added can be represented both in magnitude and direction by the sides of an open polygon taken in same order, then their resultant is represented both in magnitude and direction by the closing side of the polygon taken in opposite order. So I will explain this statement. Suppose we have more than two vectors which we want to add. For example, we have four vectors to be added. Suppose this is vector A, then this one is vector B, now this one is vector C, and this one is vector D. So we have four vectors to be added, and we cannot add these four vectors by using the triangles law or the parallelogram law. So we have to use the polygons law. So now look at the statement of this law. It states that if a number of vectors to be added can be represented both in magnitude and direction by the sides of an open polygon taken in same order. It means we have to arrange all these four vectors as the sides of an open polygon, and all these vectors should be in same order. So let me arrange all these vectors. This is vector A, and remember that when you are arranging the vectors, don't change their magnitude or don't change their direction. So this is vector A. Now vector B is in this direction. So same order means the head of vector A will be connected to the tail of vector B. So let me join the vector B here without changing its direction and magnitude. This is vector A and this is vector B. You can see that vector A and vector B are in same order. Now you have to join the tail of vector C with the head of vector B, and again don't change the direction and the magnitude. So this is the vector C, and then we have the fourth vector, vector D. So the tail of vector D will be joined to the head of vector C, and we should not change the direction and the magnitude. So this one is vector D. So students, you can see that I have arranged the four vectors A, B, C, D as the four sides of an open polygon. Open polygon means this polygon is not closed. So we have 1, 2, 4, 3, 4 sides. So after arranging all these vectors in same order as the sides of an open polygon, their resultant is represented both in magnitude and direction by the closing side of the polygon taken in opposite order. So which one will be the resultant of these four vectors? According to this law, it states that the closing side of the polygon, closing side means this is the closing side, this closing side of the polygon will represent the resultant vector both in magnitude and direction. And remember that this resultant vector should be in opposite order with the vectors. So I have to close this side using a line like this, and the arrow mark will be in this direction because according to the law it states that the resultant vector should be in opposite order with the other vectors. So this is vector R. You can see that R vector is opposite order with A vector, and R vector is also in opposite order with D vector, because the tail of vector R is connected to the tail of vector A at this point, and the head of vector R is connected to the head of vector D. So the closing side of the polygon which is taken in opposite order represents the resultant vector both in magnitude and direction. It means the length of this side represents the magnitude and this arrow mark represents the direction. So I can write that R vector is equal to A vector plus B vector plus C vector plus D vector. Is that clear? And there is no definite formula to find the magnitude of R vector because there are many vectors are added here, so we cannot use a formula because we will get multiple angles between them. But I can show you that this Polygon's law of vector addition is the result of Triangle's law of vector addition. So students, look at the diagram here. So here you have A vector, B vector, C vector and D vector. So first look at the two vectors A and B. This is vector A and this is vector B. So these two vectors are in same order. Now if we want to add these two vectors, we can use the triangle's law. So A vector and B vector, they are in same order. So this side which is taken in the opposite order will represent the resultant of A and B, means this vector is equal to A vector plus B vector. Is that clear? From the knowledge of triangle's law, we can say that this blue color arrow mark, this vector will represent the sum of A and B, or resultant of A vector and B vector. Now you can see that A vector plus B vector is in same order with C vector, because the head of A vector plus B vector is joined to the tail of C vector. So now if I draw another line like this, then this one will represent the resultant of this vector and this vector, means this green color vector will represent A vector plus B vector plus C vector. Is that clear? Now again, this green vector and this red vector, means A vector plus B vector plus C vector, is in same order with D vector. And if you draw this line, the yellow color line, then this will definitely represent the sum of or the resultant of this vector and this vector. So definitely this yellow color vector is equal to the sum of all these four vectors, or we can say that the yellow color line is the resultant of the four vectors. So R vector is equal to A vector plus B vector plus C vector plus B vector. So students, this is all about Polygon's law of vector addition, and there is no mathematical formula to find the resultant because it involves more than two vectors and more than two angles. But using the geometrical method, you can see that the statement correctly explains this law of vector addition. So students, you will basically get questions from the triangles law and the parallelogram law of vector addition, but you will not get many questions from this Polygon's law of vector addition. But you have to know how to add more than two vectors. So students, hopefully you have understood this law. As I had told you that this will be a very short video because there is not much to prove, there is not much to derive. So this is a very easy law, and in the next class we'll discuss about the resolution of a vector. We'll discuss how to resolve a vector. So till then, have a nice day and